It's time for sports. We say hello to Ketevan Gorgistani.
Hi, François.
It's Champions League night, Women's Champions League night.
Yes, and a difficult task ahead for Paris Saint-Germain. They're hosting Chelsea after losing the first leg 2-0 last week in London. The good news, though, for Paris Saint-Germain is that Erin Cuthbert, who was one of Chelsea's scorers last week, will be missing that match on suspension. Paris Saint-Germain, twice runners-up in 2015 and 2017, saying that they are ready and confident that they can overturn that deficit. They will be counting, of course, on their striker, Marie-Antoinette Katoto, the French league's top scorer, as well as on their supporters, some of women's football's most hardcore fans. Here's what the coach had to say about that support in his press conference yesterday.
I think our fans are going to be really motivated to push the team, to push the girls to give it their all, so that they don't have any regrets at the end of the match. The Jean-Bouin stadium's our lucky charm this season. We're unbeaten here, and we've scored an average of 3.5 goals per match. 3 goals we might need in order to qualify.
Now that game will be kicking off in just about 10 minutes. 2 other games are already underway. The defending champions Lyon facing Wolfsburg after winning the first leg at 2-1. And it's looking good for Lyon because in the first half hour, they've already scored 2 goals, which means that they are almost certain to make it through. Barcelona are also looking good, having 1 foot in the semis after their 3-0 win against Lillestrøm SK. They are currently leading 1-0. And later this evening, the final quarterfinal will be Bayern against Slavia Prague. That game had ended in a 1-1 draw last week. Moving on to tennis now with the Miami Open, and Roberto Bautista Agut had the upset of the 4th round by knocking out world number 1 Novak Djokovic. At first, it looked like the Serb was going to cruise through this match after winning the first set 6-1, but the Spaniard bounced back in the second and was leading 5-4 when rain interrupted play for about 30 minutes. Back on the court, Bautista Agut broke Djokovic to force a decider. The world number 1 was broken again in the final set before Bautista Agut smacked a forehand winner down the line to seal the victory. 1-6, 7-5, 6-3. Next up for the Spaniard will be the defending champion, John Isner, the American who defeated Kyle Edmund in straight sets, 7-6, 7-6. Meanwhile, Borna Coric is also through to the last 8, recovering from a set down to beat Nick Kyrgios 4-6, 6-3, 6-2. An 18-year-old Canadian, Félix Auger-Aliassime, defeated Georgia's Nicolas Basilashvili in straight sets. Another Canadian teenager will also be in the last 8, Denis Shapovalov, who beat Stefanos Tsitsipas 4-6, 6-3, 7-6. The final last 16 match will see Daniil Medvedev face Roger Federer. Now, in the women's draw, Ashley Barty advanced to the semifinals after a hard-fought battle with the 3rd-seeded Petra Kvitova, the 12th-seeded Australian, edging at the first set on a tie-break, 8-6, before suffering a second-set slump as Kvitova leveled that match. But the 22-year-old got her tennis back in the 3rd set, leaving the Czech with just 2 little games and breaking Kvitova one last time in the final game of the match. Final score 7-5, 3-6, 6-2. Barty, who will be next facing Anett Kontaveit for a spot in the final. The Estonian, who staged 2 comebacks in one match, recovering from a set down, then from 4-love down in the decider to beat Sei Su-wei 3-6, 6-2, 7-5 in 2 hours. China's Zhang Wang will face second-seeded Simona Halep, and later tonight, the all-Czech quarterfinal between Karolina Pliskova and Marketa Vondrousova. Now on to the night's NBA action. Charlotte securing their first overtime win of the season by beating San Antonio 125-116 to keep their playoff hopes alive. Kemba Walker was key in that win. He scored 11 of his 38 points in overtime, including 4 from 4 from long range. The 28-year-old adding 11 assists and just missing out on his 3rd career triple-double with 9 rebounds. The Hornets are currently 10th in the East, while the Spurs currently hold the 8th and final playoff spot in the West. Let's take a quick look now at the other results of the night. The Hawks beating the Pelicans 130-120, with rookie Trae Young continuing his hot streak with 30 points. Orlando got a key win in the race to the playoffs against Florida rivals Miami to move ahead of the Heat in 8th place in the East. Boston Celtics defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers 116-106 to book their playoff berth. Caster Semenia's battle with the IAAF athletics governing body continues. The Olympic champions' lawyers hitting back today at comments made by the IAAF president, Seb Coe, saying that they had reopened old wounds. Over the weekend, Coe told Australia's Daily Telegraph that gender classification was necessary to protect women's sports. Semenya, who has a condition known as hyperandrogenism, is currently challenging the IAAF over its bid to restrict levels of testosterone in female runners. The new rules would set a limit on the amount of testosterone female athletes can have in their blood, forcing those with a higher level to take medication to bring it down to a, quote, normal female range for a period of 6 months before they can compete, and then to maintain it. The Court of Arbitration for Sports had been due to announce a decision on a Tuesday, but has since, Francois, postponed that decision to probably somewhere late April.
All right, many thanks for that, Ketevan Gorgestani. We'll have those football results for you coming up later on.